So if we're thinking that large language models will take away people's jobs, we should be looking at software that actually houses a lot of those jobs, a lot of the language-based jobs. And we've seen demos from Google and Microsoft already. Uh, but now Salesforce is coming out with their own AI day, where Salesforce hosts a lot of language-based jobs. They, a lot of service is in there, sales is in there, a lot of operations is there, a lot of clicking and writing happens on Salesforce. So yeah, if they are successful, they can really make people's lives easier, or require less people altogether. So their AI day really sucked. It was not interesting. However, it had some demos which were interesting, and I just want to show you so that you don't have to watch the whole hour and a half, which was on Twitter too. So as you can see, I had to go through until the 54th minute, and now we had this Formula One, which is their client, doing this whole demo. It's really relevant, blah blah blah, so inspirational. But then we actually have some demo, so let's watch.
Seeing how generative AI works. So now we're going to have a little fun. All right, now Formula One is using AI, data, and CRM seamlessly behind the scenes to provide amazing customer experiences. And as Mark mentioned, we're here to talk about AI today, but it all starts with the data. And what you're seeing here is the homepage for Formula One. It has all of their rich fan engagement data, every touch point, every activation, and every event that the customer has been to. But how did we get to this neat, unique, connected view? Well, it all starts with connecting to all of your data. And Data Cloud makes it super simple to connect to all of the data that is relevant to your ultimate customer experience. In this case, it's the fan for Formula One. So you can connect to any customer cloud, any external data source or data lake, or even any legacy system using MuleSoft. And as we know, data is the fuel for AI, so being able to bring in all of this data, no matter where it sits, is extremely important for providing that end personalization. So once we've connected to all of that data, we need to make sure that it's harmonized into one consistent format. Because you have data sitting in a lot of different systems. So a single fan could be represented in an IP address, in maybe a touch point with your mobile app, or maybe their Hotmail address from their college account or something like that. But they're one customer with one set of needs. So with Data Cloud, you can harmonize all of that data into one consistent view. And with that, the data is now ready for any sort of personalization that we want to start with. And the end result is actually this very clean, very unified view of the end customer. I can now see every single touch point that Abby has had with Formula One, the races she's attended, what's coming next, the purchases she's made, really anything about her that gives me that full picture of who she is. So now that I have this unified view of the customer, this is where it gets interesting with AI, starting with marketing. Now what we want to do is create a landing page for our upcoming event. And I can tell you, as a former Salesforce admin myself and a current marketer, creating landing pages is hard. And it's hard for two reasons. The first is it's difficult to personalize it just the way you want. And the second is that you never know how it's really going to perform. Now this is where Einstein GPT is extremely important in helping to do this quickly. So as I start to prompt Einstein GPT with what I want to do, in this case creating a landing page, all of this content that's being populated on the page is not just content coming out of nowhere. This is content based on what has performed best in the past. So I can rest assured as that marketer that I'm not only building quickly, but I'm building for that end personalization that my customer is really going to want. So Einstein GPT is going to help me create more personalization on this page, more product recommendations, and I even want to add an interactive map for our customers and fans that will be on site at the Miami Grand Prix. Now as a marketer, this is where my job ends and a developer's work begins. So let's head over into the developer environment. Now right here within the IDE, my developer can customize this map and make it super interactive for that end landing page, which is killer for our F1 fans. And with just a few prompts and descriptions of what I want to achieve, the code will be automatically generated, and this is powered by our own Salesforce large language models. Now, I want to pause here for a second, because in this new era of generative AI, there's a lot of talk about the future of work and what these new roles will be of the future. And the future is our trailblazers. Our trailblazers are building with Apex today, and with these tools, they'll be more efficient than they have ever been before, which is simply incredible. So now that we've built the page, let's see what it looks like. Now with this page, this is fully personalized to the end fan, personalized to them and their journey at the Miami Grand Prix. Okay, so another really special part about F1's business is the way that they treat their end fans with their hospitality reps. So for them, a sales rep is a hospitality rep. And they pride themselves on this trusted relationship. Now this trust can take a lifetime to build and a moment to break with the wrong level of personalization or feeling like that rep really doesn't know them. So Einstein GPT helps them scale this relationship and nurture it with the most up-to-date information. So the first thing I want Einstein GPT's help with here is to update my account description. And it can help me do this really quickly, bringing in that public data that's relevant to my customer alongside private data, which is really important. It'll also surface my relevant contacts that I might want to reach out to for the upcoming Miami Grand Prix. So it's not just surfacing knowledge, but it's surfacing actions, which helps me go faster as that hospitality rep. So next I want to compose an email and invite my end customer to an upcoming race with a really tailored email here. Now, another special thing that I want to call out about Einstein GPT is that this isn't just based on everything a rep has done in the past. This is based on outcomes. So this email that's being generated is based on the emails that have been most highly performant with customers in the past. So we're going to go ahead and edit that email, bring it into the email composer, and send that right to the customer. So the next step of this story is super important because this is where it gets very personal with our customer inside of Slack. Now, the hospitality reps within F1 are using Slack as their centerpiece for productivity across all of their channels and all of their customers. Now, this is the updated sales homepage for all the Formula One hospitality reps, and it's enriched with all of the amazing data they have in CRM about their customer. So I can see over here that this end customer that I just sent the email to has accepted our invitation to the race. And what's automatically been created is this Slack canvas, which has really the best starting point I could ever ask for in terms of information that I want to give to my customer. It has some relevant information for VIPs, some experiences, on-site contacts. But as that hospitality rep, I might want to personalize this a little bit more. And Einstein GPT is there for me as well. I can ask Einstein to help me identify what the best experiences are at the Miami Grand Prix, and then update this canvas. So I've gotten that great first stop with generative AI, and I can also continue to customize this. So we're going to share this with the customer in our joint channel because we're collaborating directly with the customer here. And we want to make it really, really important for them to have every single experience they want. And it looks like they actually have some questions for us. And one thing that I really love about Slack myself at Salesforce is using a huddle for those quick questions that might not require a whole phone call or a whole conversation. So we get on a huddle with the customer, and we understand a little bit more deeply what they want to experience on site at the Formula One race. Now, not only was I able to do that super quickly, but after the call is done, I'll get a helpful summary right in the channel that I can use later. So this is just a snapshot of all of the various ways that Formula One can be using AI Cloud across their entire business. Back to you, Mark. So it all starts within Commerce GPT. Now, this helpful guidance center here within Next Best Action is going to help me with that checklist of what I need to launch a new product in market. And it looks like we're actually missing a few things here. We're missing some product descriptions. And just like I said in the previous demo, creating these descriptions or creating a marketing email, a sales email, this takes a lot of time, and it's no different here. But Einstein GPT is here to help by automatically generating product descriptions that are not just descriptive of the product, but that are actually in the brand voice and tone that Rossignol wants to bring to their end customer. Now there's a catch here. Rossignol is also a global company. So it's not enough to have these product descriptions generated. They also need to be localized for the languages that are most relevant to their customer base. In this case, we want to start with Spanish. So we can translate all of these descriptions with Einstein GPT in the click of a button. Now, normally, this would take a lot of time, creating the descriptions, getting them to the local teams, getting them translated, and then taking it that extra mile of inserting the voice and tone of that language into the description. It sounds painful because it is. But within a few clicks, Einstein GPT can help them bring this bike to market with this commerce experience. Now, once this bike is launched and it's out there, it's flying off the shelf. People are so into this new bike, and all of our brand managers globally want to make sure that they have the right understanding of how their KPIs are being affected by all of these net new sales. Now, these powerful visualizations you see here would normally take a lot of data analysts, a lot of work behind the scenes to create every time you wanted to refactor some of the elements of the dashboard. But with the new Tableau Pulse, this is available for business users to keep track of their business as it happens. It's keeping up with the speed of how things change, all in a trusted manner. And even if this dashboard isn't enough, that business user doesn't need to go back to the data analyst for changes. Einstein GPT has your back here as well. You can actually just ask a question in natural language here, and Einstein GPT will generate this additive visualization here with a description answering your question. So you can get on with your day. No need to meet with those data analysts to generate this and wait a long time for those insights. Now, another element that Rossignol cares deeply about is the way that they service their end customer. And there are two key reasons here. One, they want to make sure that their service time, their case resolution time, is extremely short for every case. And two, they want to make sure they have happier customers. So this is where Einstein GPT within service is so important. As this company question is coming in through the service terminal, Einstein is providing these helpful recommendations for me as I go along as a service rep. Now, the service manager is always in the driver's seat. They can accept, edit, or decline those recommendations. There's always a human in the loop. But just the sheer fact that these recommendations are in my place of work as a service manager is a huge time saver. It's keeping me from chair swiveling between different knowledge articles, searching through my whole knowledge base for that perfect answer for the customer. And as the conversation goes on, I even have next best action giving me those relevant, personalized product recommendations for that end customer. And the cherry on the top here, actually, is that as this conversation is going on, once I close the case, I can easily summarize it and share it with the rest of the service reps. So for example, if our field service reps are out there in the field, they're not behind a laptop, they can access this best practice in the form of a knowledge article that is shared amongst the whole team, which is amazing. Now, I hope between these two stories, these simple stories, it's got your imagination thinking a little bit on how you can get started with AI Cloud today. The possibilities are really endless when you bring AI, data, and CRM together. Thank you.
Not bad, isn't it? So service jobs, then also, what was it, data analyst jobs, more jobs. So these were the most interesting things from the conference, and generally a lot of the time spent there was on trust, on building that your data is actually not going to leave Salesforce. And that is a huge pain point, it seems like, amongst the enterprise customers. That's why the whole event was just on sort of building trust without a lot of demos or anything like this. So the demos are basically over, but I found this part to be most interesting about trust and how they're going to actually resolve your data being essentially only on Salesforce. So let's finish off with this.
If I asked you all in the room what an apple is, you can probably immediately tell me what an apple is. But if I asked you to tell me where in your brain is the knowledge about what an apple is, nobody would be able to tell me that. A large language model works very much the same way. The reason you know what an apple is because over time you've come to identify certain properties about the apple. You know that an apple is round. You know that it grows on trees. You know that it's red, but sometimes it's green. And all of these properties combined give you the knowledge of what an apple is, but in that in that learned environment, we can't put those same types of access controls on top. We can't control how the data comes out of the large language model, how the recall comes out. So that's the problem that we're trying to solve. Now, how do we solve it? Well, it all starts with a prompt. Now, prompt is a word you're going to hear a whole hell of a lot over the next couple years and months. A prompt, you've all done this probably if you've used ChatGPT. A prompt is just a question. It's the question that you're going to ask the large language model. So let's consider things in the context of a business here. Let's pretend I'm an investment manager at a bank, and I want to write an email inviting my client to discuss our investment services. Fairly simple question, and from this fairly simple question, I am going to get an answer or a generation that is two things at the same time. First, it's amazing. It's incredible what this was able to generate with very, very little information. This is something that I can take, I can edit, I can manipulate a little bit, and this is an amazing first start. But this is also terrible and unusable, right? It's not personalized. It doesn't know anything about my customer or my company or the products that I sell. This reminds me of every recruiting email I get on LinkedIn, right? It's just right to the trash. I can't really use this. And it's because it's missing context. It's missing information about my business. Now, I want to include that information. Now, what most of you would probably think is, I know what I need to do. I need to train a large language model. I need to spend months of time giving it data and feeding all of this data about my business into the large language model to train it. But you don't need to do that. You can continue to use the prompt in a technique called grounding, because a prompt is more than just a question. A prompt is an entire canvas to provide detail, context, and instructions. And within those instructions, we can ask for more of what we want. So for example, within this prompt, I can tell them about myself. I'm Patrick Stokes. I'm an investment manager at Cumulus Bank. I can tell the prompt about my customer or my company, excuse me. We're a one-stop solution for personal banking, loans, and investments. I can tell the prompt about my customer, Lauren Bailey. She's been a customer for over 7 years. She's gold tier status. She has a checking account, savings account, et cetera. I can even tell this prompt about some of the most recent information. Have you all heard that large language models, most of them today in the consumer space, they're like a year, in fact, maybe more out of date? That's not good enough. We need to know exactly what's going on in our business right now, so we can put that in the prompt. Lauren downloaded an Empowering Sustainable Future white paper from our website last week, so we know she's interested in sustainable investments or a sustainable future. I can include information about our newest products that we've just launched. We've actually just launched a new green energy investment opportunity. And then finally, I can include information that may be true, may not be true at any given time, which is we're having an event. So maybe we're having an event in a few months, maybe we're not in a few weeks, and this is the type of kind of logic instruction that we can include as well. And when we ask for a generation based on all of that, we get something that is immediately usable. This isn't something that we have to download and cut and paste and start injecting our data into and then worry about where we paste it back. This is something I can just click a button and use immediately in my application. But there's still a problem. The problem is that all of that customer data is put in there. Now, before I explain how we're going to solve that problem, I want you to just consider all of the data that Salesforce has about your business, all of the context across sales, service, commerce, marketing, across the data cloud, all of that telemetry data coming from Mark's car, right, his 2 cars. All of that data coming in, this is all data that we can ground in that prompt, that we can add as context to get a better generation on the other side. But the problem is, if you look at that data, that's sensitive data. There's PII data in there. There's Lauren Bailey in there. How do we protect all of that? So we're prompting it. It's better than training. But how do we protect all of that data from getting lost in the large language model and not being able to control how we recall it later? And that's where the Einstein GPT trust layer comes in. The Einstein GPT trust layer creates separation between all of your corporate enterprise data stored in your CRM, in databases where we can apply access controls, and it allows you to responsibly ground all of your prompts in that data without that data ever leaving Salesforce. Now, we do this with a number of methods: secure data retrieval, dynamic grounding, data masking. We do toxicity detection, and something called zero retention. Now let's take a look at just a few of those. So if we go back to our prompt, let's look at data masking. So as I mentioned, I have some PII data in here. I have Lauren Bailey. That's personally identifiable information. That's information that I don't want to go out into the prompt. So we have a technique called data masking. We can simply mask that data, and now that PII data does not travel across on the prompt with it. But even cooler than that is we can take this entire prompt, and when we're done with it, we can simply erase it. The prompt never gets stored anywhere else. We take that prompt, we add the context about our business, we get our generation back, we mask all of the PII data, and then we delete the prompt so it never enters into the LLM in a stored way. None of that sensitive data is learned by the LLM. Complete power. Now to show you exactly how this works, to kind of dig into the technical details and the architecture of how our team, many of them over there, put this all together, we're going to bring back up Srini.
No thanks.